Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name's Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've landed on our webpage, you can find our Boomers General Store, links to places where you can hear our podcast, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, X, and more. There's a link to our Baby Boomer Tales Facebook page. Thank you for riding along today. I just want to say one thing before we go any further, and that is about light bulbs. Back when George W. Bush was the president, he made a big announcement saying they were going to discontinue all incandescent light bulbs and go with new technology. Well, about the only new technology there was those curly Q fluorescent light bulbs. Remember those things? They were awful. I hated those things. I've got 4 or 5 of them down in a box downstairs that I do not use. I keep thinking I'll find a use for them somewhere. But anyway, so I started buying a package of light bulbs every time I went to the grocery store. Just one package. Package of 100 watts, package of 60 watts, whatever. I even got 3 or 4 refrigerator light bulbs. Well, now it's been a long time since Bush was in the White House, and I still have a big box of light bulbs downstairs. I do find I'm running out of 60 watters, and I have found that I'm starting to get some LEDs. I kind of like the LEDs. Number one, you can put more than 60 watt light in a LED bulb into these old appliances that say can only handle 60 watt. Now do not take me up on that. You clear that through an electrician or your power company or something, but I do that. It gives more light. Also though, I have found the daylight bulb. I didn't like its light at first. But then I went somewhere and we played a game under this table that had a big bright one of those daylights. And I thought, this will be terrible. What I found is there was no shadows. The light was better for the game. So I bought one for our game table and it is great. And what I've found now is I'm doing more and more LED bulbs all the time. I'm being forced to in some places. Ceiling fan light bulbs. I thought I had plenty, and a ceiling fan might have 5 or 6 light bulbs with it. And so now I'm stealing them out of my office fan, putting those nice crystal clear incandescents in other fans, and putting LED fan light bulbs. So I am running out of certain light bulbs. Where I'm going with this is I do like that daylight. Now, in the early morning, I turn on a couple 40 or 60 watt lights in lamps around the house, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not real bright, and that kind of yellow light is warm and comfortable to me. So I will be sad if I live long enough to see that I have no incandescence left. But try those daylight bulbs if you need something with a special light. I'm going to put one in my laundry room, I've decided. And it just has one light, and then I have a fluorescent I turn on also. But it's a 60 watt, and I've always kind of not liked that I don't have enough light to do the laundry, folding and stuff. Maybe I'm just getting older and my eyes are getting dimmer. So along comes the LED. Whatever. George W., we showed you. We held out like Fort Apache. Our song of the week is We Are the World, written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie and recorded and released in 1985. Sales of this great song went to a charity called USA for Africa. It was for famine relief back in the 80s over in Africa. It sold over 20 million copies, 8th best single seller of all time. Harry Belafonte spearheaded this great event with artists like Bruce Springsteen, Cyndi Lauper, Paul Simon, Stevie Wonder, Tina Turner, Kenny Rogers, Ray Charles, Billy Joel, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson's siblings, all except Janet, I believe, Dan Aykroyd, Lindsey Buckingham, Sheila E., Bette Midler, John Oates, the Pointer Sisters, Smokey Robinson, Willie Nelson, Al Jarreau, Steve Perry, Daryl Hall, Huey Lewis, Kim Carnes, Bob Dylan, and more. Amazing. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. They did it in one night. We're together, all 40 or 50 of them, whatever, till around 6 a.m. in the morning when they were finally done doing all the solos and the choir part and all that. It was an amazing thing, and the one thing I took from this, besides getting all those egos together, there was a handwritten note taped to the door as they entered saying, "Leave your egos at this door." All right. When my wife went into labor with our first child, she was laying there in a hospital bed, and the nurse gave me a project to do, and that was, gave me a pen and paper on a clipboard, and I was supposed to keep track of her contractions, how long they were, the time they started, how far apart they were. So what I did is I made spreadsheets and graphs out of that. I was very busy and so excited on that. And I had it down just so many different types of reports and types of contractions they were, and scale 1 to 10, how heavy they were or how much they made her scream or whatever. And finally, later in the day, because she was in labor, that first kid, 12 hours, more than that, I think, maybe 14, 16 hours, a very long time. Started at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and lasted till I think Aaron was born at 10:30 at night. Well, about 6 in the evening, they came and they wanted my clipboard of what I was keeping track of. And I said, "That's fine, but she's still in labor." And "That's okay. We'll take it from here." And "No, I want to keep track right up to the baby." And so reluctantly, I had to give all my reports and all my stats and all my graphs of my wife's labor to that nurse. I was highly disappointed. I told you that because I think I've always been a nerd. That was a pretty nerdy thing to do. I should have been sitting there with my wife holding her hand, coaching her through. Instead, hold on, do you have a red and a green pencil over there? So I've always been a nerd of some type. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. Don't hear me saying I'm making fun of it. These are my people in a weird sort of way. Now, I might have been a nerdy little kid. I think all kids are nerdy little kids. All of them. Every one of them. And I'm not one that grew up with a pocket protector or my glasses all taped up with white tape, or my pants too short with white socks underneath it. None of that. I always try to keep myself cool. But my earliest memories, probably from the time I was about 10, I was keeping stats on football and baseball. I'd play a solo game of football out in the yard, throwing the football in the air and running under it and catching it and stuff. And I kept stats of this. I had different players made up in my mind, and I wrote them down on paper, and I kept stats on them. How often they caught the football, and how many yards per catch, and the percentage of catches opposed to drops, and all that stuff. When I was about 12, I couldn't figure out how they came up with earned run average in baseball. And I sat and I figured it out myself, all by myself. It's not a complicated formula, but when you're 12, it is quite complicated. I was just a little jock with a nerd trying to get out of me. I had a secretary once. She was real skinny, and one time at the Christmas party company, I heard her telling a bunch of people that she's just a fat girl trapped in a skinny girl's body. I always thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, as I got to be a teenager, I kind of forewent that a little, not always completely, never completely. I mean, I was a jock in high school and not a very good math student, and yet I'd go home and I'd figure out all these formulas and stuff. I've attributed that to I don't think my math teachers knew how to relate to me. Because if I wanted to, I could figure something out and I would do it with relish. But most of my math teachers were just dry bones. They were as dry and boring. Oh, they were terrible. Now, some of them I liked personally, fond memories of some of them. But they could not get it through my thick skull what they were trying to do. I'd have to go home and figure it out myself and have fun doing it. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Now, I think I'm a teachable person. I think, I love learning, but the subject has to be presented to me in a manner of which that I'm excited to grab out and grab hold of it. And math was one of those things that just wasn't from about 6th grade on. Early on, 1 and 1 is 2? Wow! I could not play any kind of game without keeping a stat on it. And that has carried over to today. But even when I was a bachelor, a lonesome bachelor, I remember one day my buddy Dan came over to my place, and I had this table that I had this baseball game that was all stats, and I had books and books of stats I figured out during this game that I played by myself. He looked at me and he says, I really feel sorry for you. You must be so bored. What do you mean bored, Dan? Now, I would rather sit there and play that game by myself than go to the bar and try to pick up some chick at the bar, probably looking for the same thing I was looking for. I couldn't do that to myself. I'd always leave disappointed and asking myself, why did I even bother going to a place like that? Now, I know the bar is, back in those days, the place where you met people. I understand that. And I always knew I would never meet the girl I married in a bar. And I didn't. I met her in a grocery store. That's about par for my course. Raised in a grocery store, so what happens? I meet the girl I marry in a grocery store. The computer has saved me from buying multicolored pens and with a ruler keeping graphs and charts and stuff. But I always loved, like, our department store. I could tell you in a New York second what size of blue jeans sold the best, what the percentage of those sales were opposed to the percentage of other sizes of blue jeans or shirts or shoes. There's multi-sizes in shoes. And I knew the exact women's, men's to the nth. And that helped me in my buying this stuff wholesale to turn around and sell it. It did. And a lot of that, I thank old Jay at the Trading Post. He kind of got me going on business stats instead of sports stats. Now I do both. I know exactly what sells. I know exactly what time of day my podcast is listened to the most, what day. I wish that I could get reports of the ages of people, but I assume that people listening to this are older. But today, besides doing the stats on my podcast and my Boomers General Store, I play fantasy football, baseball, and basketball. That's a great place for stats. I keep stats on the rain, on my budget. I know exactly. In fact, the water bill came in kind of high, and I could tell Kim, because I couldn't figure out why February was high like this ever. I had that one back about 20 some years, 25 I think. My FICO scores, or credit scores, there's more than one credit reporting company, and they all have several different ways they keep track. My cars, I know every penny I spend on them. TV and streaming, this is kind of a new one for me. It all was created because I've kind of abandoned network TV pretty much and went with streaming, and there's thousands of that stuff. So I keep a spreadsheet on them. When I start watching them, what season I'm in on movies. If I see a movie and I don't like it, I rate it. I keep stats on that. Birthdays and anniversaries. Anyone that's important to me, I have a spreadsheet on them with their birthday or their anniversary or their date of death. Kim and I play a game almost every day, and I keep stats on that. I know the percentage of wins I have and she has, how many times I've won, how many times she has. I've started a new one, and that's turning our mattress. Now, we've always turned our mattress, but I couldn't remember the last time. So we turned it the other day, so I started one there. Turn it or flip it, right? Before I know it, in about 20 years, I'll have a big old spreadsheet on there. I'll be keeping stats on that long after I can't lift that mattress and flip it. It was kind of hard this last time. Well, I'm telling you all that because, well, it gives me something to do. Y'all have to have something to do. Don't just rock away in the rocking chair. Keep your mind busy. Keep your body in shape. I'm not sure how you do it. I do it by working around my property, and I believe I can do that for a few more years. But keep your body and your mind sharp. And the way to do that is keep the rust off by using it. Exercise it. Keep it sharp. So I'm a nerd. I know it, and I'm not ashamed of it. Always be kind. It's taking the high road in life. You know that, right? I'll be back next Wednesday. Peace out.